It's a great day to talk hockey with Grant McCagg on HabsCast.
Welcome to HabsCast. I am your host for this episode of HabsCast. I'm Eric Macramalla here with NHL scout Grant McCagg. HabsCast, as you know, and I said before, everything Montreal Canadiens. Grant, after last night's 7-3 win over the Avalanche, which included a couple of weird goals on Wedgwood, tell us how you feel emotionally about that win. Give me your emotion.
Well, elation, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought they outplayed them by a long shot. It wasn't even close, really. There was a little doubt for a couple of minutes in the second period when Montreal typically gets beat up, but no, I thought that the Canadiens outclassed the Avalanche. McKinnon and Makar really were non-factors for the most part. The Canadiens were the better team, and I think it's pretty telling, Eric. I know there you are. I know earlier on, before that really tough stretch of games that you pointed out before Christmas, where they were playing top teams and stuff, and saying, if they can survive this and still be in a playoff spot, they're in decent shape. Against the top three teams in the East and top four in the West, the Habs are 7-4-1. They've played 12 games against the top teams and have 7 remaining against those teams. So, I think that it's a pretty good indication that if they can start beating the lower teams, and they seem to have had more issue doing that this year than beating the top teams, then they're in good shape to make the playoffs.
I mean, there is what I referred to on my Smash Hit Show Offside with a total of 4 listeners. There is not parity in the NHL now. There is extreme parity, particularly in the Eastern Conference. If you look at the Eastern Conference standings, only the Rangers record stands below 500 when you include overtime wins and do not include overtime losses. Every other team, including the Leafs, who have lost 6 in a row, first time since 2019, they are over 500 when you look at their record, their one-loss record, not including overtime losses. So it does seem, Grant, I mean, for Habs fans, I know it's almost a bit emotionally exhausting that the team plays so well and just can't seem to separate itself from the group. We're seeing a bit of separation in the wild card spot. The Canadiens and Bruins are presently in wild card spot. I think they're about 7 or 8 points ahead of the Panthers, who stand at 59 points, if memory serves. But it's tough to create that distance. And so what do you want to say to Habs fans when you look at this extreme parity? Do you think that it's going to continue all season long, that the Panthers will continue to be in a fight for a playoff spot, that a lot of teams will be vying for that? Or is it the same old story that it's the number of teams you have to jump over to get into a playoff spot?
Well, that's the difficult part, the Canadiens right now, the 8th place team, and I think 5 are going to come out of the Atlantic. It looks that way. The Atlantic is the deepest division in hockey right now. It's fair to say. I mean, Colorado, loses to the Atlantic Division teams. 5 of their 8 losses are against Atlantic Division teams. But the Islanders are in 8th with a win percentage. When you multiply their win percentage, they're on pace for 99 points. All right. So the Habs, realistically, you say, well, if they get 100 points, they're in. Now they have a 620 win percentage so far. So they would have to win at a clip of 607, which is obviously not at the same pace, but they have to play pretty good hockey, 60% the rest of the way to make the playoffs. So they got to continue what they're doing. But I think that the positive thing is that, 12 games against top teams already, done well against them. If they can play up to their capabilities, if the goaltending with the new goalie coach and Dobes looking good, if it's if it's at least average league wide compared to the rest of the league, I think they Florida's going to get back Barkov. That obviously will help them, but he could be a ways away yet. And it's 8 points is the spread after last night. That's significant because there'll be teams, they're playing against other teams that they're battling to get that last spot with. And like a team like Ottawa, for instance, that's only a couple points below that, they have to jump a bunch of teams, and it really, as you say, it gets really difficult when you're battling with 3 or 4 other teams to get that last spot.
That is the voice of Grant McCagg. I'm Eric Macramalla. This is HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. If you have comments as you're listening, please drop them in to the comments section. Good afternoon to you, Ken Pedro 9705. Always wondering about the genesis of adding numbers to the end of someone's username. You mentioned goaltending. So let's start with that. Only in Montreal could you likely dedicate an entire podcast to a goaltending change that has been made. Montreal Canadiens have parted ways with Eric Raymond, brought in Marco Marciano. I love the name. I'm a boxing fan. It's a great name. As an NHL scout, Grant, and this is where you provide this unique perspective. Been right about a lot of stuff. You're right about Kapanen in the preseason. You also said, to my consternation at the time, the Canadiens were a 100-point team. I'm like, 100 points. Looks like you're right there as well. From your standpoint, bringing in a new goalie coach under these circumstances where Dobes has been inconsistent but has still been winning, where Montembeault has been inconsistent and not always winning, does that change make a difference from your perspective?
I think so. Certainly, like I've talked to some colleagues over the past few days, and everybody seems to think that it's a step up. Like Marciano, the rumors that there were other teams that were trying to hire him away were true, and he's got a very good reputation. I think he's well regarded in NHL circles, and I don't know if that was necessarily the case with Raymond overall. So I think it's an improvement, and I mean, we just saw it. Like Dobes did a lot of developing in Laval. He first came up last year with, he looked great, and then he kind of regressed as things went along. Same with Fowler. When he came up, looked really good. As time went along, with more tutelage from Eric Raymond, it seemed to regress a bit. Monty goes down to Laval, comes back, looks pretty decent, and then it's inconsistency again all the way through. So I think hopefully he's a better goaltending coach, and he helps these guys, helps get Monty back on track, because I think maybe the main reason why they made the change, other than not wanting to lose Marciano, is they really still want to get Montembeault straightened out, keep Fowler down in the minors preferably, and have Montembeault at the very least be a competent backup to Dobes.
So let me ask you this, having the experience that you have, because I heard the comments that Dobes made after Raymond was fired. And those comments are always pretty telling. Whenever anybody's fired in sports, you listen to what the players say. Dobes said, I'm paraphrasing some of the words he did use, that it was unfortunate, that I'm paraphrasing, but he said he was excited about the new goaltending coach. So that, to me, was a clear communication that maybe Dobes thought a change was needed. Montembeault hasn't really said anything on that, but he hasn't played well, so it's easy to point the finger at the goaltending coach. You make a great point. Down in the minors, the players have played well, and then when Fowler was called up and Montembeault was called up over time, they began to have some issues. I guess I'll ask you a question that maybe Raymond would want me to ask you, Grant, given your experiences. Is it fair to point to the goaltending coach? Does the goaltending coach have that significant an impact on how a player plays? Because Montembeault was really good last year, and now he's not. Is that Raymond's fault, or is that Montembeault's fault? I'm just asking what I think is a fair question to ask.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously it's both. I think when a goalie starts to struggle, the reason why you have a goaltending coach, I think, is to help him get out of those struggles. And he didn't seem to have an answer. The goaltending coach didn't seem to have any of the answers for that. And that's kind of his job, I think, as goaltending coaches to, when somebody's struggling mentally, is to help them regain their confidence. And also, if they're having flaws in their technique, which we've seen with Montembeault this year, especially when it comes to not coming out of his net and challenging shooters, I don't think whatever the messages were coming from the goaltending coach, they weren't clear, or they weren't getting through, or whatever the case may be. So I think you have to kind of put the onus on both for Monty's struggles.
I think you raised it. I think you've expressed it really nicely in that the goaltending coach is there to provide in part support for a goaltender, partly when the goaltender is struggling. Maybe you're also a psychologist as well, but providing, support on the physical side, that this, the how to play net, looking at the manner in which you play net, but also helping you along. And it wasn't working. So if you're Hughes and Corden, it makes sense. And Marciano's got a pretty good reputation. And Corden, who's got a massive frontal lobe and strikes me as a highly intelligent individual, described Marciano as a smart guy. When a smart guy says another guy is smart, the odds are that player is smart. So I don't think it's going to hurt. I think you're bang on. I agree with you. Why not make the change? And if Dobes is expressing that he's excited, then that's great. Another player. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just quickly. I asked around because I'd been asked the question and I honestly didn't know the answer. And it's a good one, is like, who decides which goalie starts, right? Is it the goalie coach? Is it the head coach? Is it, assistant coach? Or
is it the parents of the goalie?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Could be anybody. I assume it's the head coach.
No, what I was told was that the goalie coach has a big say in it, and it certainly.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the goalie coach who.
You just shocked me. You just blew my mind. I assumed, if anything, it's management because they had the analytics. Wow. Okay.
I thought it would be the head coach too. Marty runs the power play. Marty, draws up the plays when he calls the timeout for the. Like, he's pretty hands-on as head coaches go compared to others, right? I don't know if this is the case for Montreal. I just the three teams anyways that I talked to said it's the goalie coach. Goalie coach has a big say in it, and in some cases he's the guy that decides who's starting. So I just wonder, all this time I've been kind of blaming Marty for starting Monty too much. And I don't know if that was unfair, and it should have been pointed more at Eric. And I just wonder if it was the case with Montreal, that perhaps, maybe Eric is, maybe even last game, right? Because they have their meetings and the goalie coach is in there and he's part of it. And if Eric was saying, oh, well, Monty's got to start the next game, and, Stefan's looking at Marty, and Marty, no, I think it better be Dobes. And finally they just said, okay, we got to move on, because that's not who we think should be starting right now. Monty's had his chances several times this year, and right now the goalie that's winning 72% of his games, as opposed to the one,
I don't think you have a choice. It was
51% has to be in nets, right?
I actually thought about you because I laughed, because after Monty beat Vegas, and I was at that game. I've seen 3 of the last 4 Habs games live, and I was at that game, and he looked good to me, obviously, and he just seems to win. But after he won that game, that was on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the confirmed, not expected, the confirmed starter for the Avalanche game was Dobes. Typically, we would wait a little bit longer, or it'd be Montembeault. That, to me, no one talked about that, but that sent a really clear message to me that the Canadians are like, okay, like, enough's enough. Now we're going to go with the hot hand here. We're going to go with Dobes. I thought Dobes played well last night. I thought he played well in Vegas. The bottom line is, it's not necessarily just playing well. He's playing better than Montembeault. Montembeault is the girlfriend that you can't trust, right? You just don't know what she's going to do in some of those moments. He's made some great saves, but as you said, used that word months ago, too many softies, right? Too many softies. I don't know if they can fix him. Do you need to fix Montembeault if you want to have a shot at sustaining success this season, the regular season, the playoffs, Grant?
Well, they got Fowler too, right? And the good thing about this as well is that Marciano's going to have a lot of intel on that, right? Whether he thinks that if Monty's not fixed here, can Fowler come up and do the job? And I think who better to ask than the guy that's been his goalie coach for the vast majority of the season, right? Down in Laval. He'd know more than anybody probably. So I don't think they're going to be, the leash will be that long with Monty. If he can't, he'll probably get 2 more starts, I think, maybe. They're going to hope that, okay, give him some time with Marciano, and eventually give him a start here. I think it won't be till Dobie loses. That's my feeling. That
because they're playing Saturday against Buffalo, Monday against Minnesota, and Wednesday against Winnipeg. So there's a day off in between. Now, Dobish's numbers for part of the season, when he has consecutive starts, they kind of suffer a bit, maybe with a new goaltending coach and maybe a recalibration of how he plays net. I agree with you. He doesn't leave that net until he loses. Not only that, but it has to be a loss that's his fault. What do you think? What do you think happens to Montembeault? Because you and I have talked about this before. The Canadians, for a period of time, made it abundantly clear before they sent him down for his conditioning stint in Montembeault that the message was clear. They thought they couldn't win without Montembeault in top form. Well, if he can't return to form, what do you do? Do you carry 3 goalies? Do you bring up Fowler? What do you do if you're the coach and the GM and the VP of operations?
Well, there are just too many NHL roster spots right now with the forwards getting healthy to carry 3 goalies anymore. You know what? They could do it when there was a 4 or 5 forwards out, but now, unless they just want to lose, 2 or 3 guys on waivers coming up here, because if and when they activate line A, and I suspect they will, somebody's going to have to be waived, unless they aren't sending. I don't think they're sending Bolduc to the minors. I don't think they're sending Lane Hudson or Demidov, or you know what I mean. Anybody that's waiver eligible, Kapanen, they're not going to the minors. So
Veleno.
Well, it'll be Blais or Veleno, right?
So Blais probably.
So there's one that possibly gone on waivers.
Wow.
So then if they activate Newhook, they're going to have to do this all over again. If they call up a third goalie, they'll have to do it again. So they're not going to lose 3 people on waivers just to have 3 goaltenders. At this point, I don't think they can go with 3 goalies anymore, unless some injuries happen, and then maybe. But right now, at least with them as healthy as they are, and having 15 forwards, 16 with Newhook, you can't. I think they would have to either try to waive Monty, which I don't suspect they'll do, or maybe try to deal him if they decide to call up Fowler again.
Because if you send, that was my next question, if you send Montembeault to the minors, he is going to be claimed simply because there are not enough goalies to go around. So maybe
if Primo can be,
you're right. Maybe he's someone that you could trade. But I don't think the Canadians love the idea of proceeding with 2 goalies, one of which is a sophomore, the other one's a rookie. I just don't. I don't know if they love that. But it seems like their hands may be tied, though. That's the issue, right?
Well, the other possibility, Eric, and I have thrown this out there, is maybe they try to do a goalie for goalie trade. It seems to happen more often than not. Like, say, hey,
who do you suggest?
Our guy needs a change of scenery. Your guy needs a change of scenery. Well, I mean, I threw Binnington out there just as an example, right?
No, please don't throw it out there. Please take it back. I mean, when his butt is facing the blue line, it's not the kind of guy I want in my net. He's unpredictable. Seems like a nice guy. I've interviewed him on Offside. Seems like a terrific guy. Had great success at the Four Nations in the final game. But let's just characterize his goaltending style as unconventional.
Right. Well, we could have two unconventional goalies.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
I mean, he did win 16 playoff games one year too. Like, it wasn't just the gold medal game where he is a big game goaltender more so than Montembeault. Like, if you have a big game to win down the stretch here and you say, well, who would you rather have in nets, Binnington or Montembeault? It's no contest for me, right?
Fair enough.
So in that regard, and I know there's some off ice, like he's a bit of a,
he's
unconventional.
unconventional.
He's a bit of a wild card.
Yeah, but so that was my next question for you. Does Binnington's personality profile, look at me, treading gently, does his personality profile, is it aligned with the Montreal Canadiens' emerging identity? How's that for a carefully crafted sentence?
Yeah. Does he fit in the dressing room? Is that what?
Totally.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, totally what I'm saying. Like, come on, man. Like he's his own guy. He's his own
no,
dude.
that's kind of the biggest. I think the biggest stumbling block to doing it. The Canadians seem to be pretty careful with that. Although you could argue Laine was sort of a question mark too, right? And they went and got him in that regard. There were issues, perceived issues at least character-wise with Laine. So, I think Binnington is highly competitive, and he's a veteran, and I don't know that he'd be bad in the dressing room. I can't answer that question. All I can do is speculate on it. And if the Canadians do trade for him, I think they will have done ample homework, obviously, in that regard, and we'll have a lot clearer answer to that than I can provide. I can only guess. So,
what if I tell you that Montembeault's save percentage is the same as Binnington's save percentage? Does that affect your analysis at all?
Well, again, I think Monty could improve in a different environment because of the pressure right now and stuff, and vice versa. I think Binnington as well. Like, if Binnington goes to the Olympics and he's a starter and he ends up winning another gold medal, would you not want to have him as instead of Monty? There's that possibility too.
No, I wouldn't. If I'm being honest with you, no, I wouldn't. I don't know, of all the goaltenders available, he's the one where I say to myself, I just don't know if you're a fit. I get your position argument. It's not unreasonable. My gut tells me that he's not a great fit, but Canadians do need some goaltending help.
Any goalie that hides Ovi's puck in his pants, it can be on my. He can be on my team. He can be on my team any day, Eric. Sorry.
Okay, so that's an interesting approach. Yes, you're right. He is real, and he, as my kids would say, he's cap, whatever that means. He's Grant McCagg, NHL scout. I'm Eric Macramalla, not NHL scout, just part of his rostator. That's a prostate with a roster. I don't know what that was. Part of his roster of rotating hosts. HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens, and there's so much to talk about here. Jacob Fowler, I have a question for you. And again, these are the questions that you're so well positioned to answer. I don't think no one else out there that provides this type of analysis, which is why I love hosting with you, is, do you feel, based upon your experience, that it's a good idea to bring Fowler back up, or do you let him marinate in the AHL for the entirety of the season?
Well, a couple of factors. Obviously, how he plays and how Montembeault plays, right? If Fowler is very good and Montembeault isn't, you got to call him back up, I think. If Monty improves, a lot of it's depending on Montembeault and the can the new goalie coach get him straightened around here. Montembeault last year was pretty good. His the big stat these days, advanced stat, is saves above expected, goals saved above expected, and he was top 3 in the league last year. So there, he has the capability of being a good goalie. Still, it's not like age has set in all of a sudden with him. It's other things, and maybe the new voice because he did look better technically and a little more confident when he first came back up from the minors, and he had been, a couple of weeks coached by Marciano. So if Monty can right the ship to a certain degree, they probably keep Fowler down and go with Dobes and Monty, and make, I don't know how comfortable and it may have been Ramo, right? That just didn't. Well, I don't think Dobes can be the starter. I don't think Dobes can be the starter. Well, maybe Marciano has a different philosophy on that too, because right now I don't think they have a choice but to hand the reins to Dobes. Hey, he made some really big saves that, he's about 50th in save percentage and saves above expected and all that, but top 5, he's 5th overall in win percentage. So I like goalies that battle, that are competitive. It's one of the most important traits of a goalie. And Dobes is one of the biggest battling goalies in the league, and I like that.
That is the voice of Grant McCagg, NHL agent. I'm Eric Macramalla, HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. In case the
I'm an agent. Oh my God.
Oh, sorry, Scout. In case those listening are wondering, Montembeault has one more year on his deal at $3.1 million and change. Yeah. So there's not a lot of term, not a lot of money left on his deal. If he plays well, it's a terrific deal for the Montreal Canadiens, which is why, in part, I understand why they want to get him straightened out, because if they can, then they're getting a really good goalie at a really low AAV. Okay, let's shift gears. That's enough Samuel Montembeault and goaltending for now. There was a player, and I don't want to be too negative, but I will be for a moment, because I want your views on this, because you see the game differently than we do. I've been to 3 Montreal Canadiens games live. One of them, Struble was playing. It was against the Sabres, and Canadiens lost that game. I was able to watch him play away from the puck, which to me is extremely important to do so, and you can't really do that on TV. There was a play where 2 Sabres apparently beat Lane Hudson down in front of the net to score a goal. Where was Struble? Where he'd roamed outside our zone while the puck was down low, going after somebody, and I actually yelled. I never yell at a game. Get back. He turned around. His eyes opened up. It's not because of my voice. He raced back, but it was too late. Lane Hudson was left alone with 2 Sabre forwards. I have not been wildly impressed with this play, particularly away from the puck. The flip side is with Arbor Jack guy, I have not been wildly impressed with easy plays that he makes look rather difficult. Is this an instance where the Canadiens just say, hey, let's go out and get Luke Shen instead and have him play in that bottom pairing? I'm not a big fan of those two. I'm sure they're terrific, and I don't want to be mean or negative. But Grant, where do you stand on Struble's play, on Arbor's play, and maybe Luke Shen? I know it's a lot, but maybe give us all 3.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying with Struble. The question with him in college, and I scouted an awful lot, was just sometimes the decision making wasn't what you wanted. He could be a little bit of out of position at times. Like, I think that doesn't surprise me, and you see it happen at the NHL level on occasion. I don't know that he's progressed. When he first came up to the Habs, I thought, wow, he's really, like, he's not making mistakes. He's really playing. He's a lot less of a wild card than he was in college. And I thought, hey, this guy, because he does have the tools to be a regular NHL player. He's physical. He can skate, can move the puck half decently. But I think the fact that the Canadiens have 5 left defensemen and 2 right, I think it needs to be addressed. And bringing in a veteran, NHL teams that are going for it, that are in the playoff race, typically at the trade deadline pick up at least 1 veteran defenseman. And the Canadiens, considering that they're 5-2 here, 5 lefties, 2 righties, if Luke Schen's available, he's a right defenseman, right? Physical, big, leadership. Like I like Luke Schenn a lot as a defensive defenseman. And
So
I
why
would
is no
not,
one talking about him?
I would have, well, you texted me the other day, so you know, you've been on it.
I mean, his AAV is 2.75. Last year of his
Yeah.
deal, 36 years old, big. You know, he's Hal Gill with a streak of nastiness. You can't win in the playoffs without guys like him. And
Right.
Struble and Arbor, I'm sorry, it's just I don't find them reliable. They, as you said, they don't make great decisions, or they don't execute on relatively easy plays. Watch Dobson. He's the other extreme. Dobson doesn't make a good pass. He makes a great first pass. He does things that you shake your head to go, he's so good, because you don't notice any mistakes.
Right. Even hit somebody hard last night.
He did. I saw that.
Every now and then, you know, geez, if he could just do that a little more, he'd be like the complete defenseman, right? Arbor actually in the last month and a half. Well, you were at 3 games, or you saw 2 of his games, I guess, live, right?
Yes, correct.
Did you notice many errors from him in those 2?
So I turned to my buddy. I go, he's got the puck in our zone. It's a simple exit pass. Watch this. He's gonna muff it. Well, next thing you know, they were pinned in our zone for over a minute because the pass went straight to a Knights player, and it wasn't a difficult transition pass. So, I don't want to be mean or rude. I don't. He's a great person, and I respect everything that he's done. I just feel like this point in his career, he's just not making good decisions and makes easy plays look hard. Sorry.
And he's protected, and he only plays 8 to 10 minutes. And when he's still making those mistakes, like imagine if he was against the top lines and playing 15, 16 minutes a game, then it's even more.
That's a great point, Grant.
You know,
that's a great point.
Thank you. Every now and then, Eric. So I would like them. I think the fact that most nights, the 6th defenseman's playing 8 to 12 minutes. Last night, Arbor was on for 13, which is, I think, the most he's had in quite a while. I want the 6th defenseman to be playing, 13 plus. And if that's not happening with your 6th guy right now, then I think, it's an SOS, a hint from the coaching staff to Kent to say, get us a veteran right defenseman here that we can entrust to play a regular 3rd pairing shift, and we don't have to mix up all the, we don't have to put Hudson with Carrier and one shift and keep rotating because you don't trust the other guy to play more than 8 minutes, and also on his wrong side too, right? Yep. And I mean, that's not easy for any defenseman. I talked to Larry Robinson about that, and he talked about the difficulties in it. Well, if Larry Robinson found it difficult, imagine what Arbor, how difficult it is for Arbor Jacki.
We got a comment here from Ken Pedro, our first person that posted a comment. Eric, you're going to piss people off wanting to trade Arbor. I never said trade Arbor Jacki. What I'm saying is at this point in his career, he's not helping the Canadians as much as maybe another player who might come in to replace him. So I'm all for Luke Schenn. That would seem to be the type of player the Montreal Canadiens would need in their bottom pairing on D. Here's another comment. I'd like to get your comment on this one, Grant, from Samurai Knight 27. Very ominous name. Quote, we have a guy that can play right. His name is Reinbacher. David Reinbacher, 6'3", 205 pounds, right shot D. I think he's injured again. I don't know if he's come back. He got hit and was pulled from the game. Might have been a concussion. I'm not sure. So it's Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. Where do you stand on Reinbacher today?
Well, what was my response to your Luke Schenn text the other day?
It was one word, Reinbacher. And then he got hurt. So let's not text about him again.
Yeah, so I tempered it a bit here today with my answer, but I mean, that's the other possibility, right? Obviously, big right-handed defenseman with some physicality. I think he's ready. I think he played better. He's one of those defensemen that I think will play better at the NHL level than he than he is in the AHL.
Why?
When
That's
he
a very
plays
interesting
with
comment.
better, smarter players, you know. He looks like he's out of his league there in the AHL to me, and I think he's ready. Like Kent Hughes said, overripe. Well, there's spots on that banana. You know, there's it's time. It's time to call him up, Kent. SOS. But
Interesting. Okay.
I
I
I
mean,
see him there for
that's a good
the.
enough. Have you seen players in the past that were better at the NHL level than at the AHL level?
I thought Struble was.
Okay. Do you want to retract that now, or are you good?
Well, no, like
Good.
on the whole, he wasn't great at the AHL level. At college level, he's better now. He was better as a pro than he was in college. Maybe more so that than NHL, AHL, but because he wasn't bad in the AHL. But I think as a whole, he's been better in the NHL than he was in the AHL. I was surprised, but um, you, Reinbacher. There's the last top 5 pick that didn't play by the age of 21 was Thomas Hickey, and I mean that's going back 15 years to an LA Kings team that was like a cup contender, and he was undersized and just wasn't that good. It wasn't a good pick, but Reinbacher it's not like he's not living up to expectations. There's been injuries and stuff, but it's time to give him a look. I think they need if you're playing a left defenseman on the wrong side 8 minutes a game, and you've got a top 5 pick at 21 who's never got a single look game in the NHL, and in the last 14 years every top 5 defense pick gets a look by the age of 21, give him a look. It's not like he's struggling. I think he's playing very well in the AHL, so I hope they bring him up and give him a look at some point here. But I realize some roster moves are going to have to be made. I think they're going to be both buyers and sellers up until the trade deadline. They kind of have to do both, I think.
Like they're not necessarily selling as much as they have to engage in a
Dumping.
gentle recalibration of the roster in order to be able to
Right.
absorb players. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that about Reinbacher, because I think one way to distill it down, his game is an intellectual game. He's a very smart player. He processes quickly. And the point you made is one that I hadn't really thought about, but that skill set, and it's a skill set, is better suited at the NHL level. If he can stay healthy, then hey, call him up as soon as you can, I guess, and give him a shot. I just don't know if we're talking playoffs now, if that's the defenseman that answers the question, who do you need in the bottom D pairing to be successful in the playoffs? I think a guy like Luke Shen or someone that makeup might be valuable. Also valuable was last night. Go ahead.
I'd like to see him with Hudson.
So where does Gooley go then?
Well, who was he with last night?
That's true, but I mean that was matchup specific, maybe because it was a home game. Okay, so you've got Matheson, Dobson, Hudson, Reinbacher. Are those your top, or is Gooley play on the top pairing with, say, Matheson or say Dobson? That's a tough one.
Well, it would be Gooley Dobson, right? Because lefty, righty.
Yep.
Hudson, Reinbacher, Matheson, Carrier.
And then, so who's your bottom D pairing?
Well, you don't necessarily have to have they can all play similar minutes, right? Yeah, I don't know that you have to necessarily number them. I like where you can throw out 3 friggin' pairings, and doesn't matter what situation, right? You don't have to necessarily protect them. The guys that are on the PK and the power play will get more minutes than the other 2, but I mean, Matheson Carrier would get maybe a little less time, but don't forget Matheson plays the entire PK almost all the time. Hudson plays the entire power play all the time, so those guys will still get get more minutes than Carrier and Reinbacher, right? Who ideally would get the least amount of minutes in those 6, I think. But they would, just because special teams, these other guys will get those extra minutes. So that, I mean, hey, if you got 3 pairings out there and Matheson's on your 3rd pair, I think that's a pretty good defense core, you know.
Well, there's no doubt this decor for years to come will be a strength. And other coaches have talked about how tough it is to defend against the Montreal Canadiens decor because, for the most part, they're so mobile and active. Look at Callier's goal last night. He blocks a shot, second shot off Doc. Next, you know, it's a 2-on-1 with Suzuki and who? Callier skated down the ice, past a bunch of Canadians forwards to make it a 2-on-1. And he's the least mobile of your, quote, mobile defensemen when you compare him to Dobson and Matheson and Hudson. But it makes it very difficult on opposing teams to defend against that when your defensemen are encouraged to activate the way that Canadians defensemen are activating, right?
Boy, he looked fast on that play. Blocked the shot. It came back. Doc blocks a shot. And Carrier just kicked it into high gear. And like Carrier's a good skater. Like, and we saw it on that play that he can scoot. The Canadiens defense core, it's so much faster than it was during the Bergevin era, you know, who Bergie who picked up players in his own image. And now it's just so much more mobile and better puck movers. You can remember for years, they need a puck moving defenseman. Just give us one. And now, you know, it's, we need a guy kind of like one of the guys that Bergie had in his day. You know, we need one of those tough, burly defensemen, at least one to go with all these puck movers. It's kind of been like a complete contrast to the team that went to the Cup final, for instance.
That's Grant McCagg doing all he can not to utter the words Douglas Murray. Very, very impressive, Grant. This is HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. Only 15 minutes left in this pod, and then Grant will hang around, I presume, as you always do, and answer some of your questions. There's a lot of questions coming in, so thank you very much for all the comments. There's one comment. This one's from Kevin Gumpley, 6240, that I think is interesting, as I want to talk about these two players. He says, quote, Bolduc and Doc bring out their best when they play together, end quote. Bolduc is not scoring. I think he got 2 assists last night. Although Wedgwood wasn't exactly playing phenomenal hockey. Those a couple goals were a little bit odd. But Bolduc, I'd say over the past couple of weeks, has been a lot more physical, Grant.
Yeah.
And that, to me, this is how he keeps his place in the lineup, is an evolved version, basically, of Brendan Gallagher, where Gallagher is now. Not someone who scores, someone who's physical, who's fast, in your face, and he's a bit of a pest, which really helps. Canadians need that as well. Doc looked okay last night, but I can't make any declaration, proclamation, statement about Kirby Doc because, honestly, I don't know what is going on with him because I just don't have a crystal ball when it comes to his health. Curious as to your view. Let's start with Bolduc and then follow up with Doc. Bolduc, where do you see his play now, and is he a valuable asset for the Montreal Canadiens moving forward?
Well, I hope so. I think it's funny, earlier in the year, Caulfield was, when he was up on the top line, Bolduc, and Caulfield was interviewed. He says, when he plays a direct game and he's effective. And I found that interesting coming from a teammate and even a line mate, but he was right. Like, you know, Bolduc's game's never going to be Demidov-like. He's kind of the antithesis of Demidov. He's got to go up and down his wing. He's got a powerful stride, kind of more like Josh Anderson type. He needs to play a Josh Anderson type game, right? And Josh at his peak was a 27-goal scorer. You know, Bolduc's a little smaller, obviously, but he's a big, strong kid, and he can punish physically, hit. When he gets the puck near the blue line, turn around, spin around and shoot at the net. That seems to be how he's getting all his points now. It either goes in or gets deflected, right? Deneau's goal and then his goal. So that's his go-to creative offensive play now. Get the puck near the blue line, near the left wall, spin around and shoot it at the net. That's his the extent of his creativity, but that's fine. He's not, just like Josh Anderson, he's not going to be setting up pretty goals, dangling everybody. Play a direct, physical, hard, in-your-face, forechecking, back-checking, compete, and the goals will come because he's got a good shot. If he can get open, get on the power play. The main reason, like line A, you think, well, do you get him in the lineup? Well, that second power play, I think, could be effective, but they haven't been. They have one goal all year. And that has to be the worst in the NHL. I can't fathom thinking that another second power play unit in the NHL only has one goal. They have more shorthandeds against than they have scored. And I think that needs to be fixed. And, bringing in line A and either putting them on the top unit and putting down a Demidov or somebody that can get the pucks to Bolduc will do a hell of a lot to fix what's wrong with the second power play.
Line A might fix that as well.
Maybe. But again, somebody's got to be able to get him the puck, right? And if all the playmakers are on the top unit, what you could almost do is substitute Bolduc and Demidov maybe off the top unit if you're not putting line A up there, and then get Demidov feeding line A. Somebody needs to do it on that second unit. But first and foremost, maybe the most important reason why getting line A in there, then you can take Gallagher off the second power play.
Yes, he does not belong on the power play. There is no doubt about that. Speaking of the Habs power play, on the first unit, they've got Suzuki playing the flank and Caulfield down by the red line. I don't know if I love that configuration. At best, I like to see them flipped. I like to see Caulfield along the flank and Suzuki feeding guys like maybe Demidov across the crease with his really nice hands and is a man who loves his saucer pass more than any NHL player. I just don't love him on the flank only because his release isn't quick. And if your release isn't quick, then you don't have a good shot. I don't care how good your shot is. But Caulfield to me makes more sense on the flank. Curious as to your views on that, because maybe I'm wrong on this.
Yeah, well, maybe they're trying to get Caulfield used to being down low so that when Laine comes in to the first unit, he's on the flank. I don't know.
But if Laine plays on the first power play unit, then who are you saying that Demidov is off? Because I mean, he's the guy that feeds guys. So who comes off that power play?
Well, yeah, I think Demidov is an option to coming off of that power play. Yeah, Demi or Slav, but Slav has 9 power play goals. And Demi still he's reluctant to shoot, and I think they need another trigger man on that unit. I mean, it's doing well. They're top 10 in power play goals, but I think they have the pieces to be top 3. I think on the power play. There's just so much. As we saw last night, like did Colorado look to have more skill than Montreal? There's not a team when Montreal is rolling that I think has demonstrated that they're clearly more skilled than this group. That there's just so much talent on this Canadiens team that.
Well, this is as skilled a team as I've ever seen, Grant.
Yeah.
And I'm 104 years old. I've never seen a team this skilled.
No. And you were saying, like, in keeping with these exaggerations here, Eric, you got 4 people that watch. So you've gone from billions watching offside to down to 4. Like what happened?
I've got billions who download it and then they choose not to listen, probably.
Okay.
That's right. Although, you know, when I meet people at the grocery store or whatever it is, they'll look at me and go, "I'm one of your billion listeners." I'm like, "Thank you so much. Thank you."
I like that one.
I have a question for you actually, and I wanted to ask you this last night, knowing we were going to do this today. When I was watching L'Antichambre on LDS, and they were critical of Gouli, and this is something that you can provide insight on that maybe most can't. They were critical of him because as it relates to the hit that he took, that he plays too open and he leaves himself open to those types of hits. What's your view on Gouli's playing style, and does it need to change a bit if he wants to play in the NHL for the next 10 to 15 years?
Playing on his toes. Well, it was something that was a concern in the past. There's no doubt about that. That he seems to, and Carrier is the same way. Like they get hit too often, and they don't necessarily try to avoid it. I mean, kudos to both of them for their bravery, but it is conducive to getting injured more often. Carrier just amazes me that he hasn't had more injuries because he's even smaller than Gouli.
I think he enjoys getting hit.
I do too. Yeah, I know. And also like Lane, he doesn't seem to ever get hurt either. Like you see big guys crunch him into the boards and just comes off.
But he's pretty hard to hit, right? Because he's so elusive.
He is, but he's been hit often
A
enough.
few times, eh? Okay.
Yeah, he has, and into the boards too. And he's tough as nails, the little guy. Little bastard, as I call him. Yeah, I think there's been an improvement in that, but obviously last night was you would argue, but that was one incident. I don't think you can point to it a number of times this year. Like since he's come back, can you definitively point out another time when he got hit when he shouldn't have got hit? I can't recall. I kind of been keeping an eye on that, and one time every 6-7 games, like NHL defensemen are going to get hit. I don't care. Even Lane Hutson, Mr. Elusive, has been hit quite often this year, so it's going to happen. In the past, part of it was he's physical and he welcomes the hits, but up until this year, he was always a little undersized still for the NHL. Like he could get away with it in junior, but at the NHL level, he needed to put on muscle. And I think he's at that point now where he is big enough that he can handle it better than he could in the past. That injury that he got earlier in the year wasn't it was a abdominal. Was it not?
Yes.
Like that hernia or whatever. That's not necessarily anything to do with getting hit. I don't.
No, and then last season, that freak injury where he sliced his
Right.
own leg.
Right.
Like, that's
again,
never happened. I've never seen that in my life.
No,
Maybe in figure skating. I don't know.
It just, some bad luck there. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of Habs players with bad luck when it comes to injuries. But I don't think, I don't see it as a big issue now. I think he put on the weight that he needed to. I don't think he leaves himself as susceptible to getting hit as he used to. He's learning that, hey, wait a sec, these Tom Wilson guys, I didn't play against these guys in junior. Like they can hurt me, right? Injure me. So I think he's again, like look at how many NHL games he's played, right? He hasn't even played 300 games in the NHL yet, I don't believe, right? 2 something. It's a learning experience, and you have to keep in mind that in terms of NHL games and experience, he's still a fledgling, really.
183 games. You're bang on. He hasn't yet played 200 games.
Not even 200. So,
no.
I mean, really, it's
he played 70 games 2 years ago, so that's something.
Right. But, not even 200 games. Like,
yeah.
Holy
and he
frick.
does a lot of the small things really well. And the Canadians, need him because they don't have that meat back there. Even he's not like a big guy, but he's solid. He's 6'3" and he's solid and he plays big. So he's extremely important to the Canadians, which raises a comment here from Mr. James 2567. We'll end the show on this. I like it. No, Arbor's not ahead of them, referring to other defensemen on the Canadians. But when look at the playoffs, if not for Arbor and Anderson in the playoffs, Montreal would have been run through the boards. There's no doubt last year against Washington, which to me was a widely overrated team, despite the fact they finished first. They were not that good a team in my estimation, but they manhandled the Canadians. This is how you beat the Sabres. Manhandled the Canadians a week ago, whenever they played them. The Rangers did it at the beginning of the season, the second and third period. The Canadians end up blowing a 2-goal lead. The Capitals, without a doubt, manhandled the Canadians, as did Tom Wilson in that series. The Canadians, if they want to have success, they need to find some beef. But the issue is you got to have beef that can play. Because if your beef is on the fourth line, they barely have the minutes. So what do you do if you're the general manager here, Grant, insofar as trying to address this? Where's the beef, as the old lady once said? How do you address that?
Got to go to Wendy's. Yeah. Did you see the rumors again that floating that they're seriously looking at Nazem Kadri?
Yeah, I did.
That doesn't excite me too much.
That doesn't excite me at all. If they do that, I'm going to be a little bit upset. And I'm Egyptian, so a little bit upset's a lot upset because we're irrational people. No, I don't want him. He's old, massive AAV. I don't care if you withhold anything. That's not the answer. It's not the Find me a winger for the first line. Find me that.
Yeah. Well, Kadri, Evander Kane, and Billington, then get that dressing room straightened around, and they'll be all set to go.
Oh my God! if I had Kane and Bennington on the team, it'd be a very different team. We'd have to put back in place maybe a curfew for the player. I'm trying to be polite.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to be selling a top six forward?
Nobody.
With size and grit.
There was one player, and he's already been traded in Sherwood, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just they're going to have to make do in the top six. I think they can add some pieces in the bottom six, though, but it's going to have to mean shipping some guys out because they have right now 9 bottom six players. When Newhook's back, they've got 9 bottom six, and they can only have 7 or 8. So, and if they trade for one, that makes 10. So, or 2, it makes 11. So they gotta. Some bodies are going to have to move out, and I think bring in some bodies. I hope that because I really don't. They make the playoffs. I don't see Alex Texier being on the first line. I just don't. I don't see him as the answer on that line. Even last night, they were pretty quiet. Suzuki did his thing, but Caulfield and Texier, I'm not seeing a lot of chemistry there. But also, there's just Texier's not physical enough for me. I think they need a physical player on that line. I hope they give Doc another look because it may ultimately be the answer on that line, right? You want a big physical, relatively physical guy with some skill in your top six that's missing. Well, Doc is really the only, internal answer as far as I can see. You were asking me about Doc. I think it's too early he just came back from injury, and it's too early to be judging where he's at here yet. You got to give him a few games. I have seen some good signs. I liked him dropping his gloves. I liked him getting cut and coming back in the game and saying, "Hey, I'm not made of glass. I'll come back and play with stitches in my hand or whatever." Doc, to me, has to be given an opportunity with Suzuki and Caulfield, or with Kapanen and Demidov and Slav back on the top line. One of those two. I think Doc needs a look there, and also Line. And one of the two hopefully can fill that spot. There's size there. With Line, there won't be nearly as much physicality, obviously, but I think they're going to need to try to solve that with those two guys for the top six, and try to get a big, at least one big physical player in the bottom six, which I think they're a lot more available and a lot easier to obtain. And then Luke Shen on defense. Hope that the goaltending gets straightened out, and try to go on a run here. I found it interesting, Kent Hughes talking when asked about, well, you got manhandled by Washington. Said, yeah, but we're a team that's similar in size and physicality to Carolina, and Carolina took them out easily in the next round.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, he was saying, you don't have to be huge and physical necessarily to win. You just got to be better.
Yeah, right? It's true. But remember what Ken Hughes said in his midseason presser when asked about what do you need to improve the team. Right away, he said physicality. So I think they know it. I think they know it.
Yeah. But he also said this now the other day, and so I think they're like what that tells me is they might add up one or two, right? But they're not going to try to transform. Get three burly guys for the forward units and then two defensemen or something. It might be one or two additions, right? That just to fortify things a bit.
Grant, I suspect if the Canadians make a meaningful move to address their top six forwards, it's going to be in the off season, and it's not going to be now. And I think that's what it's going to be. So I'll get you out on this, because people always talk about this, and it's the future. You got your bottom line to know Anderson, Gallagher. They're being paid a little under $20 million. You got Tessier being paid as a bottom six forward at 2.5 over the next 2 years beyond this season. Zach Bolduc might get the same type of contract. Are those players being groomed to take the places of Anderson and Gallagher? Gallagher and Anderson's deals are up at the end of next season. You could buy out Gallagher if you want. There's a net gain in the first year and a minimal nominal net loss of $1 million and change in the second year. In the first year, you'll make about 3.2 or 3.8 million. You'll get that cap space. Even if you don't buy them out, in 2 years, are Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher still the Montreal Canadiens?
I don't think Gallagher is. I think he probably is either retire or have to sign elsewhere at that point. If he doesn't want to retire, they might just have to say, well, we're not renewing your contract or whatever. Anderson, a little less so, just from the fact that they kind of need that play. They need Andersons right now still. And until that changes, he might still, how old is he now? 30? Give or take. He's 29 to 31, somewhere in there. So
he's 31, turns 32 in May.
Okay, 31. Okay.
Yeah, turns 32 in May. So next season he'll be 32.
Yeah. And he's still skates like the wind, and it's not about I don't think he's on the downside of his career yet necessarily. I'd be personally, I would keep Anderson over Evans 2 years from now if you had to make a choice of the two. I know Evans has a 3-year contract or whatever, but as far as a fit for what the club is going to need in 2 years' time, if you had to make a choice between, I would say goodbye to Galley, and if it had to come down to Evans or Anderson, I would re-sign Anderson and trade Evans.
If I had a choice, and I hate saying this, I would buy Gallagher out next year, get that cap space. And Anderson, you're right. That's the wild card. If the Canadians can't find a way to add some muscle with some speed, which is what Anderson provides, a very north-south game, but it's effective as a fourth line player or a third line, depending on how you want to define it, then they may have no choice to hang on to him. The only way they don't is that they find a way to plug those holes. And if they do, then Anderson is gone. So I guess we'll see. I suspect some old school GMs still look upon him very fondly, and they might offer an overpay for Josh Anderson, and the Canadiens may not be in a position to match. If Anderson is not on the Montreal Canadiens roster in 2 years, I don't think it spells disaster for the Canadiens by any means. They can still win without him, but I understand the value in having him. So,
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
All right. Well, look, we are over time by 7 minutes. Once again, Grant, the time flew by again. That's an hour that felt like 5 minutes. Love talking to you. I learn when I'm on with you. I love the insight. I love the intelligence. You make me a better Montreal Canadiens fan. So thank you so much for that. He's Grant McCagg. He's sticking around to answer your billions upon billion questions that you have for him. So stick around if you want to ask Grant some questions or listen to his answers. Again, no one provides the same level of insight that Grant does, so well worth sticking around. I have to get back to overbilling my clients. He's Grant McCagg. I'm Eric Macramalla, and this has been HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. Chat soon.
Thanks, Eric, as always. Thank you. Yes. I am consistent with cutting off my guests. I'll get used to that yet. When you're the producer, co-host, sometimes it doesn't go real smoothly. But the other thing too, and I didn't get a chance to say that to Eric, though, as far as the internal possibilities in the top six, the other one that I didn't mention, but that is also a possibility, would be Michael Hage, right? Regardless of whether Michigan goes right to the final game or not in the NCAA tournament, there would still be a couple of games left at the end of the year. I think Montreal is going to sign him at the end of this year. And if they do, then that means he probably burns a year in his contract. It'll be, well, he's not signing with Laval, he's signing with Montreal, and the guarantee that he'll get in the lineup a couple of times, and they probably want to see that anyway. If it's still a question mark on who that sixth player is in the top six, he could very well get a spin in the top unit in those season-ending games. Mind you, if the Canadiens are still trying to make the playoffs at that time, and the very important games, they may not want to put a raw rookie on the top line, right? That's asking a lot at that point. But here's hoping that by game 80, the Canadiens have clinched the playoff spot at that point. But those are the internal. I think the answer to the top six has to come internally, and maybe it's Texier. Maybe I'm underestimating him. Maybe maybe they're seeing something that I'm not. He's gotten a few points, so it's not like he's been horrible. I just don't. I think that there are better options than him for that spot internally already. And now this is all contingent on them not finding the answer through trade, which at this point I'd be a little bit surprised if they do find a top or go that route. I think the Canadiens ultimately feel that it's 2 years or a year or two, a year or three before they're really serious NHL Stanley Cup contenders, and they're not going to want to jeopardize that for the short term this year. But on the other hand, they just beat the NHL's top team 7-3. They beat Vegas. They beat Minnesota. Their record against Vegas, Minnesota, Tampa, Detroit, Carolina, and Dallas is 7-4-1. Those are the top teams in the league. They can hang with anybody. Maybe their biggest issue has been losing to non-playoff teams at home this year in games that rightfully you'd think that they should have won. But part of that reason is the fact that they had a shaky starting goalie in Montembeault, and you just never with a shaky Montembeault and Nets, the Habs could lose to anybody at any time. And Dobie too, being a little inconsistent, but mostly just that the starting goalie had this inconsistency. Wedgwood looked like Ron Tugnutt last night. There you go. You talking about the Tugger that made 70 saves that game? Tuggy wasn't that bad a goalie. I think you can come up with worse names than that. Seems like the team plays better for Dobie. Yeah, it does. Johnny Golden pointing out the obvious. Eric is very professional. That he is. He's a lot smoother host than I am, I'll tell you. Mind you, he's at his own radio show, Offside. Tune in if you can. It's great. On TSN 1200 and 690. I think it's in Edmonton too. So if you get an opportunity, tune in. By the way, this guy right here, the Roadrunner, he got his flooring for his house in Montreal at Logs End, West Quebec company. They take logs out of the Ottawa River, which helps with the ecosystem. It, helps get these logs out of there and turns it into beautiful flooring. And they've got a showroom in Stittsville here. I'm about 10 minutes from my place in Canada. And the plant is that's where Yvan visited, the plant in Couillon, Quebec. And beautiful flooring. Yvan got his whole house done with it. And when I spoke to him, when Liam interviewed him, couldn't speak more highly of Logs End. So if it's good enough for Yvan, folks, it's good enough for you. So visit Logs End and do me a favor, check out their website if you know anyone or if you are interested in flooring, logsend.com. Check out their website. If you contact them, tell them Grant from HabsCast sent you, and they will fix you up. Kevin's saying the Bolduc and Doc bring out their best when they play together. I think it's a little maybe too small a sample size so far to conclude that. But yeah, I don't mind them playing together. But if line A isn't used, try it on the top line, or he is and it doesn't work, and Doc keeps making strides, improvements here, I hope that Doc is played with Suzuki and Caulfield, because ultimately I think he can play better with them even than with Bolduc. Your chatters got you curious and got you to ask about the goalie coach. The other day, yeah. Well, it was something that I wondered myself. And somebody brought it up, and I'm going to ask people that would know more than I whether the goalie coach makes that decision or not on who starts. Kevin, is there anything better than a Habs win and a Leafs loss? No, there is not. Wallstead would look good in Montreal, sure, but Wallstead's not going to be traded. Doesn't make sense, folks. He's the goalie of the future for Minnesota. He's in the running for Rookie of the Year. How many goalies are ever that, right? No, Minnesota, I don't believe is going to trade Wallstead, and if they do, it's going to be for a top 2 center. That's the piece they need, and Montreal doesn't have that piece for them. So there's not a fit there with Montreal. Very improbable that they trade Wallstead, but if they do, it'll be for a second line center, and Montreal doesn't have that for them. They could trade Kapanen, but then Montreal doesn't have a second line center. So back to square one. 10 wins and 10 losses. 6,240, 10 wins and 10 losses. See, that's where that number at the end makes it confuses things a bit, Ken. Yeah. There's no way Montreal's getting an up-and-coming goalie like Wallstead. No. They are not. Particularly because if Guerin goes all in and says, well, the only way we can get a top 2 center is by trading Wallstead, Montreal's not the fit. Like Hage isn't ready to be a top 2 center, and they're not trading their number 2 center and then not having one. So it's not happening. And they wouldn't go for Doc. It's too much of a question mark. Well, he's not even playing center. So I wish I could say yes, good idea, but not a good idea. Monty has to go no matter what. Well, Dobes Fowler case closed. Monty has to go no matter what. Well, guys, they brought up this goalie coach to get Monty straightened around. I hate to break the news to you, but that's going to be his main focus here. So the best thing for this club is that Montembeault gets his game straightened around, and Fowler is left to percolate in the AHL and continue to develop there. And when he's ready, fully ready, then you bring him up. If Monty, doesn't improve his game, and it's not going to be a very long leash, I don't think, then he'll be moved and Fowler will be brought up. Kenny, as long as Dobes gets more of the starts, I'm good with Monty backing him up. I still think Fowler needs a little more time. Yeah, well, I'm on board with that. Give Fowler another playoff run. It won't hurt him. I mean, I know earlier I wanted him up, and we got a good look, and there's a lot to like there, but there were some things, he was letting in short side goals. There's some technical things, technique things that need to be patched up. I think his confidence was starting to get a little exposed a little bit there, and that he needs a little more time before he's fully ready to come up and be a difference maker. But he does look like the goalie of the future. And yeah, they could trade Monty in the offseason as an expired contract. Imagine if Carey had this team in front of him. I know why. Monty's number 15 among goalies in expected goals against per game. Yeah, he is. He's 80 in goals saved above expected. 80th. Goalie trainer was saying goalies need between 150 to 200 AHL games to be ready for the NHL. Yeah. Well, Marty Brodeur, Patrick Roy, I could name a bunch of them that didn't need. Marc-Andre Fleury, all the greats didn't need 150 to 200 NHL games. So, there, a goalie trainer can say that all he wants, but like any unwritten rule, there's exceptions to it. Vasilevsky didn't need 150 to 200 AHL games. I can name Patty Waugh. A new firmed face than a known outsider for goalie. Okay. I'm not sure what a farmed face is. One with a good tan. Dobes is even cheaper than Monty Capwise. Better value. Yeah. I enjoy watching Dobson. Great pickup. That he is. Wanting to trade Arbor. Yeah. He didn't say trade Arbor, though. He just said find another 6 defenseman. It's a lot asking Struble and Struble and Jackeye to play on their offside. We have a guy that can play. His name is Reinbacher. Yes, well, Coleman and Whitecloud might be an interesting pair from Calgary. I have a feeling they didn't pick up Whitecloud just to flip him again, but I could be wrong. Possibility, yeah. Those two would add some grit. Has Reinbacher tried to force things or try to do too much in his own? Nope. You're reading too many media. There's media folks out there that don't know what they're talking about. Reinbacher will be a great one once he gets a chance. Bear in mind that most of the people that watch, that are way in on Reinbacher don't have any scouting experience and don't watch the player per se. They watch games and take those opinions with a grain of salt. That's all. I'll be kind about it, but just take their opinions with a grain of salt. Not that I'm the be-all to end-all, know-it-all or whatever, but I do have a scouting background, and I do actually just watch games where I specifically watch Reinbacher shifts, and that's it. And given 20 years of scouting experience, and given that I have, like, I spent thousands of dollars for a program that allows me to watch every shift of players specifically, I think I have a more informed opinion than most journalists. Love Arbor, want him to keep him on the roster for the tough teams, but Reinbacher for the good of the team is worth a try. Yeah. Arbor's no more than a depth guy. Well, LD, can you name one guy in the Habs that he's ahead of on the depth chart? No, he's not. Yeah. I just want to check something here, folks, because I'm curious when talking about if not for Arbor, they'd have been run through the boards. Well, they got beaten 5 games, so I don't think Arbor was the difference of, it's like, oh, well, he made the difference. Well, they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't win in the playoffs. They won 1 game. Arbor only played 3 games in that Washington series, and he played a total of 32 minutes. So as far as, him making any difference in the playoffs. He played 10 minutes one game, 12 another, and 10 another. So 10 in 2 games and 12 the other. So he's replaceable, folks. If Gooley's luck changes, I think he lays more punishing hits than anyone else on D, including Arbor. That's just what I see anyway. Yeah. We don't have many people out today, eh? You know, it's discouraging when Eric comes on because he's so good that more people don't watch this. It's too bad. It really is, because I think we have great shows, and we just don't get the people watching. It's funny. Gully will drop the gloves if he has to. Yeah, he can. Yeah, you could see the elbow swing. Funny, like they don't call elbowing unless you hit them in the face. Well, it's not elbow to the head. That's not the penalty. What they call a penalty, it's elbowing. And he definitely elbowed him. I'm old school, grew up watching the Habs in the late 60s, 70s, so I admit I'm biased. A high skill, physical team. And the Habs are so close to that now. There's $2 from Sheldon. Thank you, Sheldon. You are Mr. Consistency when it comes to. I wish Habs goaltending were as consistent as you were with support, my friend. Thank you. Kick Galley off the power play ASAP. No, Sheldon's on board for McCarron. Yeah. And join the club with Kadri. I don't want Kadri for many reasons. I live in the London area and I've heard plenty of things about personality that make me not want Kadri anymore. Well, yeah, Eric didn't necessarily mention it like he mentioned the other two, but I don't find Kadri to be high character either. No, pass. Thank you, Mr. James, for that kind word. Do I think Florian or anyone else in Laval would be able to hold Anderson's spot when the time comes? Well, I don't know. Like, so do they only just want to replace? Like, if the thought is that they need to be more physical even with Anderson, then why replace him? Well, better off to have someone else along with Anderson, if you get my drift, right? I think Florian can eventually play with the Canadians, but Anderson might also be a teammate and perhaps even a line mate for the first year or two, right? Until guys like Thorpe and Papanicus hopefully are ready as well. It's hard to fairly judge a team when goaltending has been inconsistent. More than one soft goal really sucks the life out of the team, but they can battle through one softie. Yeah, I agree. Dobes will be the starter even if he loses. Well, that hasn't been the case in the past. He's won and still not been the starter. So we'll just see. Saturday game against Buffalo. Yeah. As long as they keep winning other games, you can lose these games and still, we thought the last time they lost to Detroit, he'll had to win that. Then they come back and they beat Vegas and Colorado. So if they lose and just win the next three, then it'd be like they never lost. Let's see how Monty looks with Marciano. Marciano will help. We'll let. This is from VDoc, by the way. You like how I pronounced that? Da Vinci? Marciano will help. We'll let Habs Brass know what he sees or doesn't, and there's always Fowler come playoff time if needed. Yeah, I can't see them not calling Fowler up again and then just say, okay, we're going with you, kid, in the playoffs. But hey, a name change. Good job. Yeah. Wallstead for Fowler and playoff depth defenseman. Yeah. Why why does why would Minnesota do that? Makes no sense for Minnesota. I've always been a big Doc supporter, really hoping he can stay healthy. What do you see as a ceiling for Doc? Well, ceiling for Doc's playing and producing on the top line. I'm the only YouTube with underscores between letters. Oh yeah? No, you're the only one that had this stupid name of V underscore D underscore AC. Told you, keep it up, VDOC. You're cruising. While I like Doc on first, I'd also like bottom six because he could make line 3 or 4 quite lethal. He's quite good at bringing puck to the net. Deneau may be a better center for him than Evans. um, yeah, well, I don't know. If he's in the bottom six, I think I want him at center, to be honest with you. It's the middle of the day on a Friday, so I'm not surprised in the lack of people here. Maybe. Eric is a favorite of mine. Same here. Hi, Grant. Would Morgan Barron of Winnipeg be worth a look as a 3-4? Center? I don't know. Is that really an upgrade on Evans? I don't. No, I don't. That wouldn't super excite me. I already got rid of one Barron. What's his size? He's not like super big, is he? Not that I can recall, at least. Oh, well, big enough, I guess. 193. See, that's so much of an impression he's made on me. Uh, like 22 penalty minutes. If you're 6'4" and you get 22 penalty minutes, like that's not fit. Size is one thing, but if you don't use it, well, Drum Dude. Hey Grant, loved seeing the revenge win over the Colorado Nordiques last night. Yeah, Louis Schlager wasn't in the lineup, thank goodness, eh? Ugh. I don't know. What are your feelings on coming back to Montreal and reminding him that the other Quebec team is gone? You know, I know some people that like Kellen Hines, who's from Quebec City and who grew up cheering for the Nordiques, thought it was special. I don't know. You could look at it the other way too and say, really, do you have to, remind us of that? And be like, I don't know. Florida Marlins coming back playing an exhibition game in Montreal with Expos uniforms on, Okay, folks. I won't stay much longer if I don't get more. I'm all cut up here. So, what's up with the Leafs? Only 2 regulation wins in their last 10. No wins in their last 6. Yeah. A double-edged sword, eh, Grant? I miss the Expos too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I stopped really following baseball with any regularity once the Expos got jobbed with that stupid strike when they were on their way to what looked like a World Series. Americans couldn't handle that Canada was going to win 3 straight World Series, so they had to strike. Both the Expos and the Nordiques got screwed massively. Yeah. So, big game against Buffalo. I guess as much as I'd like to see Line in the lineup, I guess they go with the same group. What I would do personally is I would take Texay out and put insert Line A on the top line, keep everything else the same. Is what I do, but I guess I'd be surprised after, as I say, after that win with them doing that. So with Doc being RFA this summer, UFA the next, what kind of contract do you offer him? Risky to go 1 year because he could leave, or ask for a big raise next year? Yeah. Um, well, because he's RFA, you have to, you try to sign him 3-year deal, 5-year deal, somewhere along those lines. I mean, if they can come to a relative agreement on AAV, right? You like that pillow that I got for Christmas, by the way? She's a dandy. Um, as long as he's not asking for the world is on his AAV, what the heck, right? I don't have too much going on, so I don't mind staying on for a while longer here. It's kind of comfortable being on the couch. It's better than that freaking chair down there. So, if you're watching on X, come on over to YouTube HabsCast here and join in the conversation. You'll get your comments, questions read. Come on over, come on down, join us. Grant would be, or Calgary would be a great trade partner. They're out of it. I'd forget Zeri or Frost, a hockey trade. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, some people have mentioned White Cloud. I guess if they're looking to flip them again, White Cloud would be all right. Sorry, Grant, joined late. Please give your take on the Manson hit on Gooley. Short repetition if you already talked about it, please. Yeah, well, I mean, it was should have been an elbow penalty. Like when a guy goes like that to another guy's body, whether it ends up being directly in the face or another part of the body, and injures him especially, I think you got to get a elbow penalty. The official, the official name of it isn't elbowing to the head; it's elbowing. If you swing your elbow into the body of another player, regardless of what part of the body it is, it's a penalty. I don't know. You elbow somebody in the gut, that could hurt, right? You elbow somebody in the shoulder, obviously it can separate their shoulder. It doesn't just have to be the face. So I thought it was bad non-call on the ref's behalf. What if Gooley's gone for 2 months with a separated shoulder? Not even a minor on it? He didn't fall on his own accord, right? Marty said yesterday, Liney's not cleared to play, practicing with team, but not yet healthy. Hopefully he gets a look before the break, but he missed a lot of time in the last 3 seasons. Yeah, they're being cautionary with everybody. Doc, we expected back 2 weeks before he came back, but obviously he's not cleared to play because he's not playing, but he could be cleared to play 5 seconds from now, for all we know. He's practicing contact jersey on, right? For a week now, been skating for a week, several weeks. I think he could very well be cleared today or tomorrow. So we'll see. I hope he gets in before. I even hold out a bit of hope that he gets to play in the Olympics yet. Finland probably have an injury or two. Seems like every team does. Did anyone get a? I heard that Bo Horvath got hurt last night. Is there any update on that? Anyone? Baseball is a cancer now anyway. If we still have a team, we'd be watching Dodgers, Yankees sign all-star players and beat everyone. It just, yeah, don't like baseball. I'm sorry. I don't like the cons where the rich teams just buy everybody. It's a joke. What do you think is the reason for Line A not being added to lineup? It has to be that they don't see him as an upgrade. Well, I guess it's because he hasn't been cleared yet. As Vidak said. What are some expendable? Don't forget right now, it's like, who do you take? It's not easy, right? So these extra couple games here are giving them a little more of an evaluation process for everybody else too. Like they're evaluating, okay, Texier had a good game a few games ago with the big line. Well, he had an assist last game. Let's try him one more time and see. And I don't know. If you were to evaluate it after last night, I'd say, okay, time to give Line A look, because I don't see Texier as the answer on the top line with those two guys. Really did not do anything last night that impressed me. Oh, Andy, expendable trading chips, there's lots of them. You know, there aren't many guys that are untradeable, really. You know, aside from the core group, but anybody in the bottom 6 is expendable. Texier is expendable. Veleno, Belay, Struble, Engstrom, Beck. You know, there's lots of expendable pieces. I thought it was dirty, worth the penalty. Yeah, I think so too. But we do have a bit of a biased opinion. To me, the elbow looked like it glanced off the helmet and still hit the shoulder hard enough to separate it. But it wasn't a penalty even with review. Yeah. It looked like a clear elbow. And it looked like it was the head to begin with. Newhook is apparently not just skating, but skating with intensity. Yeah. Who was saying the other day they thought like end of March? Like, he'll be back before that. I don't see it being that long. Like, a broken ankle, right? It's not like a high ankle sprain as Stu was talking about with me the other day. It's fracture typically takes 6 weeks. Ankle may be a little longer, but it's been well over 6 weeks. Fractures typically heal within 6 weeks, and then there's the other stuff. But 2 months, I don't see it being 3 to 4 months. I see it being 2.5 to 3 months. So that timeline would give it sometime in February here, right? Like I think by Valentine's Day, by the time the Olympics are over, I would not be surprised if Newhook's ready to go. If not then still before the end of February, I think, would be my guess. I couldn't believe the rest reviewed the elbow and still said no penalty. Yeah, they reviewed it for 5 minutes and then said, oh, no, we're going to go from 2 to 0. I found it funny. Yeah, Hugo's not going to want to, but don't want to lose guys for nothing. But if nobody offers anything, then they'll have to put them on waivers. It's kind of hard to get an asset for Sammy Blais if he's been on waivers already twice this year. Team's going to say, oh, okay, here's a first round pick. Like, no, actual fracture might be less of a rehab time than serious ankle sprain. Usually is. Yeah, high ankle sprain. Yep. Those can take 6 months sometimes. It's, as Stu said the other day when I had him on, like, well, the bad news is that your ankle isn't broken. Well, what do you mean? Well, a high ankle sprain. It's even worse. Yep. The GMs know Montreal's in a crunch. No, I don't think they are. What are they in a crunch about? There's teams in more of a crunch than Montreal. In a crunch for what, Stanex? Yeah. Oh, no, it's breaks typically take 6 to 8 weeks and, 4 to 6 sometimes. And high ankle sprains. Well, ask Stanex. No, I don't believe they're in a crunch and that teams. Montreal doesn't have to do anything. Like, I think, we discussed it, Eric and I, like, they might try to solve their issues internally and they're not going to overpay for a top 6 forward, especially a rental. They're just not. That hasn't been their MO so far, and it won't be, now. So how's the sound there, guys? I don't have my mic. I hope the sound is okay. I'm just using my webcam audio here today. So why wouldn't the NHLPA be part of an effort to get attempts to injure out of the game? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's not going to be Montreal's trading chips, right? Their trading chips is not going to be Veleno and Blais. Okay, good. It's going to be Going to have to be more than that to get back anything of significance. But those guys would just be, if you could get anything for them, it'll be just, to dump the contracts, get back, just to have the roster spots, right? Like future considerations, even. Sure, but what's the difference? Future considerations, which ends up being nothing, or waivers? Basically the same thing, right? I'm just using my webcam audio, so good. I'm glad it. Which bubble team in the East that is currently out of the playoffs will be the most likely to squeak in? Let's have a look. I mean, Florida's next, right? Barkov coming back. I think that's the easy answer. The two-time defending Cup champs. Kachuk rounds into shape. If Barkov's back after the Olympic break, one would have to think. Washington has 59. Florida has 59. Washington has played 55. Florida's played 53. I mean, it's hard to bet against Florida. I'd say they're the team still that you have to be cautionary about. If Florida wins their next game in hand, they're six back of Montreal. Boston, they're 8 back, but they have 2 games in hand. They win those 2 games in hand, they're only 4. They're only 4 behind them. A lot will depend on schedules too, right? Like if Florida plays Boston 3 times down the stretch, I mean, this is where you start looking at games remaining for teams as well, right? So I'll just quickly bring up Florida's schedule here. Like they play Buffalo, Boston, Buffalo, Detroit. Just looking at divisional games here: Ottawa, Boston, Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit. So, unfortunately, oh no, wait, Boston. So they've got 2 games left with Boston and 2 games in hand. They win those 2 games in hand. They beat Boston those 2 games. Teams are tied, right? And that's not including other games. So for me, Florida's still the team that you got to worry about making the playoffs. And if they do, I don't know, and they have a healthy Barkov by then, I wouldn't want to play him in the first round of the playoffs. Tonight's game. Okay, you mean Buffalo game? I don't know. I'm not a real big predictions guy. I hope you're not looking at me to, lay a bet or anything. I don't do the mise en jeu and, here's my bet for the night. Like Tony used to do on his show there on TSN 690. Leno's still a good backup for the Habs in case of injury at center. Oh, yeah, but they do have Doc too in case of injury at center. They got Beck, who I thought looked okay. But yeah, I think also a backup for penalty killing as well. But anyway, if they pick up a couple of bottom line guys, they'll be able to do that too. Presumably one will be able to play center too, and kind of a Valeno upgrade type situation, right? Florida looks like the answer. Yes, I agree. Yeah, well, teams always have to clear up cap space. So a list of the teams who have the toughest schedule. Habs are ninth. Ninth in what? The entire league? I looked at Montreal's schedule and it doesn't look overly difficult, to be honest with you. Florida has the easiest schedule in the Atlantic. And that's, I mean, if you're going just by points, right? Like, what's toughest? You know what I mean? Like there's some teams like playing against Florida with Barkov back would be pretty tough. You don't go by the record necessarily, right? You're saying the ninth worst schedule out of 32 teams is Montreal? It's funny because I was looking at their schedule and it didn't look daunting to me, but maybe it's because they play great against the top teams and they can beat anybody on a given night. The goaltending is not horrible, letting in the first couple shots. So Buffalo, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Islanders, Capitals, Sharks. Nothing. I mean, they're capable of winning all those games. Anaheim, LA, Toronto, Ottawa, San Jose, Anaheim, Boston. I mean, their next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next 10 games, 7 or 8 are definitely winnable as far as I'm concerned. Boston, Detroit, Islanders, Carolina comes here. You can beat Carolina here. Columbus, not that good. Nashville, Carolina, at Carolina, that'll be tough. Tampa, big game. Rangers, Devils, very winnable. Devils, beatable. Panthers, well, we'll see. Lightning again. Hopefully those games will be for top spot in the division. Columbus, beatable. Islanders, and end with Flyers. That doesn't look like the ninth toughest schedule to me. They've got no games left against any of the really tough teams out west. You know, they've got one trip sort of out west where they go to Minnesota, Winnipeg, coming up here now. Then it's all east the rest of the way. Oh, no, sorry. They've got to go to Anaheim and LA. But if you're going out west, those are definitely 2 winnable games. Anaheim's not, you know, they've come back down to earth. I'd be surprised if that's the ninth most difficult schedule in the league. If it is, then there's a lot of, geez, I'd hate to see the 32nd easiest. Cakewalk. 22 games against the Leafs and the Hawks. But the thing is, like, most of those are winnable games. So, yeah, they're not playing Vancouver and they're not playing, you know, the very, very bottom teams, but certainly a lot of winnable games there, I think. For depth, not saying keep Valeno over other roster spots when push comes to shove. Yeah. Moreno left saw it. Yeah. I don't. They got one left center. That's plenty. That's not something you worry about. Is having two left centers. I mean, they're at the top of the standings with 4 right centers. You know, so one's enough. For depth, not saying keep Moreno. Yeah. Florida, if they make the playoffs, must hope not to face the Habs. Habs have been handling them for 2 years. Yeah, regular season and playoffs are 2 different things. Florida's safe to say Florida's been pretty good in the playoffs the last 2 years, and with I mean, they beat them earlier this year without Barkov. Well, a lot of teams are. If with a healthy Barkov and Kachuk, who they didn't have earlier in the year, that makes a big difference, right? So, sure, Montreal beat them this year, but they beat them in overtime without Kachuk and Barkov, right? And that makes a big difference, I think. 200-point scorers. That'll saddle any team. So they beat them twice this year, but again, without their big guns, right? Florida traded their first rounder this year, and it's unprotected. Okay. What are you? Not sure what. Thank you for the information, Lotus Man. But is there a follow-up to that? I missed part of the interview with Eric. Not sure if he discussed the Celebrini incident of him waving off the high stick contact. Yet the ref still gave Ekholm a penalty. No, we didn't discuss that. Hey, he's the Carlos Alcaraz of the NHL, I guess, right? I have nothing but respect for Celebrini's sportsmanship there. Not surprised it's a good Canadian boy, raised right, that did that, and I'm proud that he's going to be a Canadian Olympian, and he'll represent our country with class and dignity. And I am a huge Macramalla and Celebrini fan, and good for him. Doesn't surprise me one bit. Characters out off the charts. High character marks for this guy. Yeah. And there's this too. We had Monty in net against Florida. Monty in net, no Barkov and Kachuk. Oof. In Monty's defense, Monty played well. So, and he's always played well against Florida, the team that put him on waivers. Always that little extra incentive, I guess, right? Lotus Man, good deal for Chicago if Florida misses the playoffs. Oh, okay. So if Florida, Chicago has Florida's first round pick, is what you're saying. Okay, and you're just, yeah. Well, give Chicago a couple more years here, and hopefully they, they'll have some interesting pieces. Mind you, they could have had Bedard playing with Demidov this year. You can just imagine how dynamic that pairing would have been in Chicago this year. I mean, Bedard before his injury was basically doing it himself, willing them into almost as good as Celebrini as far as, you know, keeping Chicago in the playoff race. And that's without a Demidov at his side. Imagine if he'd have had, even if he would have had Demidov this year. Crazy to think. 3 teams. Yeah. Well, Ottawa's was, and it wasn't even a trade, right? It was it was their penalty for Dadonov. Imagine, missing out on a top 10 pick because you had Dadonov and you like, wow. And you weren't forthright in disclosing his injury or whatever. Like, wow. That's just unbelievable. But Florida, Toronto, Ottawa, yeah. Not a lot in the farm systems of those 3 teams right now either. You know, Ottawa hasn't had a lot of high picks since the Sanderson Stutzla draft. Dorian was trying to save his job and trading away picks, and they made poor picks in like Tyler or what's his name, that Boucher. You know, Yakimchuk could be another 2 years before he's ready. Still has to improve his skating and his defense. They don't have a pile in the farm. Toronto, obviously, very little. You know, year after year trading top 90 picks, and future ones gone. Like, they're not, their future's not very rosy right now. What you'll see with those teams, if they're clearly out of the race at the deadline, is that they'll try to get back. They'll try to get first round picks, and trade some pieces there, and see if they can't recoup a first rounder or 2, and try to start the rebuild or retool, I guess, in those 2 markets. Florida, well, yeah, I guess if they're like 15 points back, I don't know. Obviously, as a 2-time defending champs, are not going to blow it up, but maybe they trade a couple of vets too to try to get back that pick at least, and have a bit more coming up on the farm. Johnny, you like Jesse and Josh? Good stuff. All right, folks. I think I'm all caught up here. Quickly, you're going to have to... Anything else, folks? Or are we... Papanicus. He's at Kelowna, actually. Lotus Man. He was injured. He just came back. I like him. He's good. He's a good prospect. Got to get consistency. Good skater for a big man. Good shot. I don't see a lot of creativity there. Like, I think ideally you look at him at being a bottom 2 center, but with size and the ability to play physical if he plays with an edge. Papanicus, as long as he's consistent with it, he could become a really, really solid third line NHL center, I do believe, that can chip in some goals, check other teams' guys down low, utilizes size, be physical. He can fight too. The guy can handle himself. You know, I could see him being part of a line there with Thorpe and Florian Jackeye, maybe in 2 or 3 years, and being a formidable, heavy forechecking trio going up against other teams and wearing down their defenses, especially at playoff time. I like Papanicus. Might be 2 or 3 years away, but he'll need AHL time and all that stuff. But yeah. Okay, folks. I got 210 here. We only have 40 people on board here, and that hasn't really been going up, so I don't suppose that's going to change. Panarin. Yeah. I don't know. I don't see Montreal having an interest. Panarin bugs me. He's not a playoff guy, really, that I see. Sharks, geez, they already have some kind of one-way guys up front. I don't know which teams. It'd be a team that has a lot of size and grit, but maybe needs a bit more talent. But I don't see that being San Jose. All right, folks. I gotta wrap it up here. Thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow night after the game. Okay. Bye for now.